I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that I am forever grateful. This, by the way, if you're just joining us, is take two, because I made a mistake and forgot to turn off the VPN before I started the broadcast tonight, and therefore I didn't have what I needed to get the show out there live. So that's been taken care of, and hopefully there'll be no other technical glitches, but that's what happens sometimes when you're doing a live show. I've been blessed to be able to visit many countries on God's earth. Yes, most of it on Uncle Sam's dime, but blessed nonetheless for being able to leave America to really understand just how great this country is. It's truly unfortunate that every American has not had that same privilege and opportunity to travel across the oceans like I have. It's not until you have been to places like Southeast and Southwest Asia, Central America, South America, Africa, Europe, the Caribbean, that you come to realize that America is the best country on God's earth. It always amazes me to hear Americans trash this country, when in fact you have absolutely nothing to compare your words with. But if given the opportunity to travel abroad, I promise you, you'll return and appreciate what you have here. You'll return and realize that we have the best military, that we have the best law enforcement, that we have the best freedoms that no other country has, the best food supply, the best hospitals, the best medical care, the best doctors, and the best environment. And most of all, we have the best constitution of all the countries. That being said, I'm absolutely hands down love my country, but I despise my government. A government that is supposed to be for the people, but it's not. We send people to Washington, D.C. to represent us, and they forget all too soon who sent them there and who's paying their paycheck. And that is, of course, the main reason I do this program, is to share with you what's happening in DC and other states in America and different parts of the globe that's important for American citizens, especially those who consider themselves a patriot, even though there are those on the left that like to link the word patriot with the word terrorism. And that is sadly what we are up against every day. It gets worse, but we continue to drive on and do the best thing that's right by our families, by our country, and by our God. We have all heard the saying, when hell freezes over. Well, I believe it has. When the most unlikely Democrat to condemn Joe Biden's classified document debacle, a Trump hater and a liar, Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat, California, is speaking out against Joe Biden tonight. Schiff said he's not ruling out the possibility that national security may have been jeopardized by the President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. I, for one, can't stand this man. He should be nowhere near our Congress. But it was very shocking for me to pull this story off the wire today and read it to you. It's unbelievable. I don't know if he fell and hit his head or what happened. Schiff appeared on ABC's This Week on Sunday after a third batch of documents was found in Biden's residence in Delaware. ABC's Jonathan Kroll asked Schiff whether it was possible national security had been jeopardized, an assessment Schiff made after the FBI seized classified documents from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence back in August of last year. I don't think that we can exclude the possibility without knowing more of the facts, Schiff said. We have asked for an assessment in the intelligence community of the Mar-a-Lago documents. I think we ought to get the same assessment of the documents found that Biden misplaced, as well as those that were found in President Biden's homes and offices. White House lawyer Richard Sauber said Saturday that 6 pages of classified documents were found during a search of Biden's private library. That announcement came after the discovery of documents that were found back in December in Biden's garage and in November at his former office at the Penn Biden Center in Washington from his time as vice president. And they held off on those and they didn't say anything about it because, Trump was being investigated for doing the exact same damn thing. And it was midterms. How convenient. The apparent mishandling of classified documents and official records from the Obama administration is under investigation by a former U.S. attorney by the name of Robert Hur, who was appointed as a special counsel on Thursday by Attorney General Merrick Garland. I'd like to know what these documents were. I'd like to know what the special counsel's assessment is, whether there was any risk of exposure and what the harm would be, and whether any mitigation needs to be done, Schiff said. I think that would be appropriate and consistent with what we requested in the case of Trump and Mar-a-Lago. Schwab has previously said that the White House was confident that a thorough review would show that these documents were inadvertently misplaced, and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovering of this mistake. Schwab's statement did not explain why the White House waited 2 days to provide the update accounting of the number of classified records. The White House is already facing scrutiny for waiting more than 2 months to acknowledge the discovery of the Intel Group of documents at the Biden office. Schiff said that he would reserve judgment when asked whether the Biden administration should have revealed the discovery of the documents sooner. Now, what's more shocking than that is here we are. We're going on 4 sets of different locations of documents found that are classified in 4 separate locations. And still, to this hour, there's no FBI raid. The FBI has not got involved. They are sitting back and allowing Biden's lawyers to go through his private residency. If that doesn't prove that we have a 2-tier justice system, I don't know what to tell you. But it's absolute insanity as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of insanity, in his remarks celebrating the birthday of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., President Joe Biden repeated once again the claim, which is a lie, that he frequented a black church during the civil rights movement. Biden gave a speech at King's historic Issabar's Baptist Church in Atlanta Sunday on what would have been the slain civil rights leader's 94th birthday. The president opened his remarks by repeating a claim, connecting himself to the civil rights movement. That has been disputed repeatedly in the past. Let's lay on one thing to rest. I may be practicing Catholic, but I used to go to the 7:30 Mass every morning in high school and then in college before I went to the black church, Biden said. Not a joke. Andy knows this, pointing to somebody that was there in the audience that invited him to speak. Andy, it's so great to see you, man, the president continued, addressing former UN ambassador and former Southern Christian Leadership Conference executive director, Andrew Young. You're one of the greatest we've ever had. Andy and I took on everything that was happening with South Africa and a whole lot of other issues. They didn't want to see him coming, but we used to. That's when we would organize to march and to go out and desegregate the city. You may remember back in his 2020 presidential campaign, Biden frequently mentioned how he would help organize anti-segregation protests at Union Baptist Church, a prominent black church led by the late Reverend Otis Herring in Wilmington, Delaware. Well, when I was a teenager in Delaware, for real, I got involved in the civil rights movement, Biden said at the Baptist church. And I got involved in the South Carolina against discrimination and racism. I'd go to the 8 o'clock Mass. Then I'd go to Reverend Herron's church, where we meet in order to organize and figure where we were going to go, whether we were going to segregate the movie theater or what we were going to do. While Richard Mouse Smith, the former president of the Delaware NAACP, defended Biden in a 2019 op-ed claiming, "We know Joe as the ally who was there beside us to protest at the theater discriminatory policies to segregate moviegoers based on race." His claim about attending the Herring Church was disputed. Longtime people that went to the church told the Washington Free Beacon at the time that they didn't recall any Biden being there, much less a white person. The revelation came about the same time Biden was forced to admit his repeated claim about being arrested with Young in South Africa, all of which was untrue. I was never arrested, and I don't think Biden was either, Young said at the time. I guess I wasn't arrested. I was stopped, Biden said. Biden also acknowledged in the 1980s that he was not a civil rights activist and never marched during the movement. During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement, Biden, who was running for president at the time, said during a speech back in 1987. I was not an activist. I worked in an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking and what they were feeling, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma, Alabama, he continued. I was not anywhere else. So, depending on which year you look at, depends on which lie you hear him say. Biden's speech Sunday at the church comes as he is embroiled in controversy over the alleged mishandling of the Obama-era classified documents. Attorney General Merrick Garland on Thursday of last week announced he appointed a special counsel to investigate how the president's handling of classified documents were after leaving the vice presidency back in 2017. The White House this past Saturday revealed that 5 additional classified records were found at Biden's home in Delaware. Biden was invited to the church by Democrat Senator Ralph Warnock, the senior pastor. Fox News Digital reached out for comment from the White House to try and clarify some of the things that Biden was saying, which is absolutely not true. And of course, they did not respond. You know, Monday through Friday, most Monday through Fridays, sometimes not every Monday through Friday, there's the White House press briefing. or some sort of press briefing. There's the normal press briefing that lasts for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes longer, depending on what they're talking about, sometimes less. If you ever have the time to watch that, please do. It's absolutely stunning to listen to Jean Prairie get up there and try and cover for the lies of her boss. It's almost comical. It's almost like watching the Saturday Night Live skit. In fact, Saturday Night Live is doing skits on this. It's that damn stupid. There are many things in life about human behavior that I find sickening, very disturbing, and very wrong, as do most humans. There are things that happen that some humans do that, depending on who you are, the experiences you've had in life, you rank them higher than others. For me, one of those is a deadbeat parent, a parent that refuses to support their children. That is something that I take very, very strong to heart. In Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, the main character searches for his true name, comes to a head when he finally demands, "Would you kindly inform me who I am?" An astonishing following this week, Hunter Biden answered that question for his 4-year-old daughter. Her name is Navy Jordan. That's right, Navy, Navy, and effectively declared, "You are no Biden." Hunter Biden's disgraceful treatment of his daughter has long been on display in Arkansas, where he denied being her father, fought to have any tests done, and was threatened with contempt of court over his failure to supply needed documents. After DNA testing was ordered by the courts, Hunter was found to be the father, but he continues to this day to resist efforts that force him to pay child support and supply financial records. Recently, Hunter's ex-lover, who he had this child with, her name is London Roberts, Lunden, sought to have a surname change for her daughter to Biden. Even after his long and abused treatment of his daughter in court, Hunter Biden's opposition is breathtaking. He opposes his daughter using his name and says that if she does, she will never have a peaceful existence. That's his words. Of course, Biden did not feel that way with his other 4 children. They are all true Bidens and living peaceful existences. It is only Navy Jordan who he does not want to bear the family name. Now, you may ask why. There are several reasons. Wasn't married to the mother. Of course, that's no excuse. The mother was a stripper. That's right. She took her clothes off in nightclubs that he frequented during his cocaine and meth and crack days. But that doesn't excuse his responsibility for the child that the stripper had, regardless of what her job is or was then. Hunter's concern for Navy Jordan's peaceful existence is a bit odd, since he has reportedly never even seen his daughter after fighting for years to deny that he was the father and years of denying child support. While living in luxurious mansions in Malibu, Hunter continued to fight his obligations under child support and requested in September 2022 to have the payments lowered because of his financial circumstances were difficult for him. Now, you all know what his financial payment is. We've talked about on this show, so is every news agency out there. The man makes millions for shit that he's never, ever had an education in. Helping China do deals for his daddy, Ukraine do deals for his daddy, play for pay, and selling art that looks like shit for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he goes in and asks for a reduction in child support. The public pays more for his security and his mansions than he does in monthly child support for his daughter. Hunter is asking Circuit Court Judge Holly Meyer to deny Navy Jordan the ability to use her father's surname and claiming that it is in her best interest. Or be honest with you, look, if I was somehow a part of her mother's family or a friend, I would say the girl's better off not having the Biden name, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want to be associated with those criminals in any way, shape, or form. The filing is so self-serving and transparently dishonest that it does what was once thought impossible, and that is to reach a new low for Hunter. All of his reported selfies having sex and doing drugs with prostitutes were shocking. His attacks on his former sister-in-law, Haley Biden, widow of his deceased brother Beau, with whom Hunter later had a romantic relationship, that's just beyond sick and disgusting. They were appalling. However, the Caravan offer to deny his child his name reaches a level of cad that stands unraveled. The position of Hunter in court has been disgraceful, but the media has largely ignored the matter. You don't hear them talking about it, do you? It has also ignored the utter lack of support from President Joe Biden and his First Lady, who tellingly admitted hanging a Christmas stocking for Navy Jordan as one of their grandchildren. The dog and the cat got stockings, but not Navy Jordan. There is no record that Joe or Jill Biden have ever sought to meet, let alone embrace, their grandchild. The president has, however, sought to deny the child security protection, despite his son's concern for her peaceful existence. Joe Biden has long campaigned against deadbeat dads. But when a Fox reporter asked about Hunter's refusal to pay child support, President Biden snapped at him and refused to answer the question on the personal matter. The media ignored Hunter's deadbeat dad records and interviews about his bravery and writing of his book, of his life. The obvious effort of the Biden family in the filing is to preserve distance from the child. The legal standard for the name change in Arkansas has been based on the best interests of the child, not the political interests of the father and his family. Indeed, historically, Arkansas courts followed a presumption in favor of child having the surname of its father. More recently, the Arkansas Supreme Court in Hoffman versus Fisher laid out various factors to balancing, including, number one, the child's preference, number two, the effect of the child's relationship with the parent, three, the length of time that the child was born, the prior surname, four, the community respect for their surname, five, the social difficulties that could arise from the adoption of the new surname, and six, the presence of any misconduct or neglect by a parent. Petition is based on the best interests of the child. Robert's lawyer claims that the Biden name is now part of being well-educated, successful, financially accurate, and politically powerful. And sadly, this poor little girl's own father wants nothing to do with her. Sadly, this poor little girl's grandparents, the President and First Lady of the United States of America, want nothing to do with her. I don't know. But if you ask me, that's some pretty sick shit right there. And it's very telling Basically tells you all you need to know about the Biden family and just how mean and cruel these bastards have become. President Joe Biden said Republicans are physically demented while speaking at the Martin Luther King Day event yesterday, aimed GOP's calls for more transparency regarding the president's mishandling of the classified documents. The president began by claiming Democrats are physically responsible. I repeat that. The president said the Democrats are physically responsible before taking a jab at Republicans who criticize his administration's spending. You're going to talk about big spending Democrats again? Biden said during a speech at the National Action Network Martin Luther King Jr. Day breakfast, referring to Republicans who frequently called out the president for signing massive spending bills into law in the midst of a recession. Guess what? The president whispered into his microphone, I reduced the deficit last year, $350 billion. These guys are physically demented. They don't quite get it, Biden said, drawing laughs from the crowd before quickly returning to the teleprompter and reading the rest of his speech. Biden continued to tout his trillion-dollar spending package throughout the speech. Meanwhile, inflation hit a 40-year high of 9.1 back in June, and gas prices soared nationwide under his watch. In November, the Biden administration claimed that they were responsible for the historical reduction in the federal deficit, leaving out major factors that led to the decrease. The Biden-Harris administration lowered the deficit to the single largest one-year reduction in American history, the White House tweeted. But of course, he left out that despite the reduction, fiscal year 22 deficit is still the fourth largest in history of America and is 41% larger than fiscal year 2019. And highlighted that high COVID-driven deficits played a significant role in the drop. Biden's comments come just days after several batches of the classified documents have been called out, and Biden's called Trump irresponsible for what he did and having documents in his house, and once again, not taking responsibility for his own actions, his own words. But, it's a typical politician for you. Yesterday, Joe Biden said those who argue they need assault weapons to fight the government need a much bigger arsenal to stand a chance. What? That's correct. Speaking of the National Action Network, during that Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast in Washington, Biden appeared to mock his conservative colleagues. I love my right-wing friends who talk about the tree of liberty is water of the blood of patriots, he said. If you need to work about taking on the federal government, you need some F-15s. You don't need AR-15s. The quote Biden refers to dates back to Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in a letter, the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Jefferson was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and America's third president. I'm serious. Think about it, he added. Think about the rationality for this. It's about money. The president also said so-called assault weapons serve no social redeeming value. Neither does your brain, by the way. Biden has previously said gun right advocates need a much bigger arsenal of weapons to take on the federal government. In July of 2021, he said you need to have weapons to take on the government. You need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons during a White House speech to outline his plan to combat gun violence. In the same speech, he also falsely claimed there have been limits to the Second Amendment from the beginning, So the Second Amendment from day one, when it was passed, limited the people who could buy guns and the type of weapons that they could own. It went on to say that you couldn't buy a cannon. The point is that there has always been the ability to limit the type of weapons that can be owned, that you can own it, Biden added. Of course, these false claims have been analyzed and over and over and over again, and Biden continues to repeat them over and over and over again. And sadly, people on the left just buy that shit. They just suck it up. It's like water to them, air to breathe. A very mentally ill man is running this country. He's referring to what the Second Amendment was written for. Second Amendment's not about hunting. It wasn't even about self-defense. It was about we the people having the ability, if ever needed, to take back our country. That's what the Second Amendment was written in the Constitution for. And after what we all witnessed happen on January 6th at the Capitol, with the few idiots that did what they did and made the rest of us patriots look like fools, they are capitalizing on this. They want people to believe that conservatives and Republicans are ready to go back and take back Washington, D.C. They want you to believe that those that actually did harm and were arrested in Washington are the backbone of the conservatives and Republicans. They're not. If conservatives and Republicans, real patriots of this country, ever decide that we're going to overthrow this government, we don't need F-15s, President Biden. We have what we need. And it would happen just like that. And there's not a damn thing you or anyone else could do about it. All we can do is pray that we maintain peace in America and that America doesn't become like other countries have with coup attempts and coup attempts that worked, overthrowing governments and killing elected officials. That's not what conservatives and Republicans want. That's not what true American patriots want to happen. We have power in numbers at the voting box. We proved that partially at midterms when we took back the House. And we better get off our lazy ass and prove it again and take back the Senate when the time is available. Not to mention, take back 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and put somebody in there that gives a shit about you and me. This next story is something that, look, I'll be honest with you, when it first came across my desk, I said, I'm not gonna waste my time with this. It's that damn stupid. But then I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? Patriots need to hear this. They need to hear how crazy the left really is, because it's not reported very much. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. And it's a prime indication of how the left thinks. A Colorado professor believes astrophysics is steeped in systemic racism and white supremacy. This person's name is Natalie Gosnell, Gosnell. She's a Black female professor of physics at Colorado College, wants to take an unorthodox approach to teach physics by interpreting it through the lens of race. Now, I know what many of you are thinking right now. Please tell me this is not real and it's something from the Babylon Bee. I'm sorry to tell you that it's not. It is real. Both an artist and a scientist, just observing things about the world, making interpretations about those observations, and then sharing their interpretation, Gosnell told Colorado College News. However, the Astrophysics claims she struggled to deal with a white, male-dominated industry who don't share the same sensibilities as she does. Therefore, Gosnell maintains the view that the potential to combine art and science is embedded in systemic racism and white supremacy. As an astrophysics, I'm a product of institutions that are steeped in racism and white supremacy, she said. Tenets of white supremacy that show up in physics, of individualism, perfectionism. It's either or thinking, and there's no subletting, there's no gray area. All of this manifests in the way that we think about our research and what counts as good research, what counts as important research. Gosnell's perspective is manifested through her artwork. According to a newspaper affiliated with Colorado College, she created an art piece depicting how dying stars transfer mass to other orbiting stars. Her latest art piece, The Gift, tells the story of a dying star transferring its mass to its orbiting star. You still with me? Hang in there. The dying star phenomenon has typically been viewed through a hypermasculine lens, or a branding of the mass receiving star as the bad boys of the universe, Gosnell told the outlet. I think because science and art have been so separated that these systemic issues with science, the metaphors that are often chosen to discuss science, are very violent and hyper-masculine. Gosnell's research focused on the evolutionary historians and future evolution of strange binary stars at Colorado College. Furthermore, Gosnell built a strong reputation in academic as an astrophysics, receiving the prestigious Caldwell Scholar Award. Her work on the exclusive environment of physics has been published in the American Institute for Physics and the American Physical Society. So many of you might be thinking right now, Doug, what the hell did she just say here? How does this relate to racism, stars in our universe, black holes? Well, for starters, we shouldn't have called it a black hole, even though it is a black hole in space. That's racist, right? Just call it, I don't know, a red hole. Here's the small print within her thought process. Until more black people become scientists and doctors in the field of astrophysics, then it's racism. Now, I don't know how that's going to ever become popular. I don't know how we get the black community to decide that your kids should start studying the stars and become scientists and NASA astronauts. And I don't have that answer for her or anybody else. But I'm so fucking sick and tired of everything being about race. Everything, the racism card gets thrown in. Doesn't matter what it is. There's somebody tonight watching this show or will watch this show going, he's got a skinhead. Douglas Ducote doesn't have hair. He shaves his head. He's got a white background. Oh, look at that racist American flag. Oh, look. Look at those awards behind him. He was in law enforcement besides the military. That's racist. Oh, he's wearing a white shirt. That's how these far left liberal ideology, that's how they think. They're sick. They're literally demented. And sadly, they fucking vote. And we end up with real conservatives and patriots and Republicans not giving a shit enough to go to the ballot box. Well, if we don't wake up, there's going to be nothing left for our grandkids and our great-grandkids and our great-great-grandkids. What they're going to inherit is going to be just another shithole country like Somalia. While we're on racism, I want you to do some homework. I want you to look up a new House bill, H.R. 61, when you have time. A new bill introduced in the House last week aims to curb white supremacy and hate crimes, but it has also sparked concern that it would blow a hole through the First Amendment. The Leading Against White Supremacy Act of 2023, sponsored by, guess who? Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat, Texas, one of the biggest racists that exist, would make it a federal crime not to just commit a crime that is inspired by white supremacy, but to post something on social media that promotes white supremacy views if someone else then sees it and commits a crime. For instance, let's say that you post the Confederate flag and on it says heritage, not hate, in a meme on social media. And somebody sees that, and regardless if they saw it or not, they go out and they commit a hate crime. And then they say that, oh, they got their inspiration by what you posted on social media. Not that you're a racist, but because you posted this meme, now you can be charged with a hate crime. It is a criminal hate speech law that would violate core principles of the First Amendment, according to George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, who wrote in a blog that was posted yesterday. It makes clear that the accused does not actually have to support or conspire to commit a crime. Much of the bill deals with making it a crime to commit conspiracy to engage in white supremacy, inspiring hate crime, outlining the elements of such an offense. Normally, criminal conspiracy statutes require two or more people working together toward the commission of a crime. But this bill only requires one person to actually be involved in the crime. If another person published material advancing white supremacy ideology based on replacement theory or hate speech that vilifies or is otherwise directed against any non-white person or group. So that can be very broad. The bill says that a published message would satisfy the bill if it's posted on social media or in any other way that has a likelihood that it would be viewed by people who are predisposed to engage in any action in furtherance of a white supremacy inspired hate crime or susceptible to being encouraged to engage in actions in furtherance of a white supremacy inspired hate crime. The bill also says that the published message satisfies the elements of the statute if a reasonable person would find that it could motivate someone with such a predisposition to act. A reasonable person standard is common in the law, but truly commented on how Jackson Lee's bill uses it to consider how a person with a predisposition to commit a hate crime might act. Now, there are people right now, white and black in America, that view the American flag as racist. They want it removed, just like they want the national anthem removed from sporting events. They want the Pledge of Allegiance removed from schools. They believe that's all racism. Why? Because there was more racism under the American flag than there was during the entire Civil War under a Confederate flag, which, by the way, if I had a Confederate flag hanging up right behind me at this moment, none of those far-left liberals or members of BLM would have a clue what the fuck it was, because that's not what they banned. They banned the Confederate battle flag, not the Confederate flag. They call it, though, the Confederate flag, and most people grow up thinking that that's the Confederate flag, when it's not. So, if a person sees Douglas Ducote doing his show and there's an American flag behind him, it's posted on social media. This goes out on Facebook and it goes out on Twitter and TruthSocial and different locations and right here on YouTube. Then they go out and commit a crime, a hate crime, and say, oh, I got inspired because Douglas Ducote had an American flag behind him. And to me, that's racism. Then guess what? I can be arrested under this law. That's how stupid this shit is. This woman has absolutely no business being in our United States Congress. Sheila Jackson Lee is a racist bigot. I said it, and I mean it. The bizarrely written reasonable person standard is so oblique and cryptic, truly said in an email to Fox News Digital, that it is enthralling. How would a reasonable person discern a predisposition to engage in white supremacy, Turley asked, linking it to Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart's 1964 test on pornography, in which he said, I know it when I see it, rather than offer a clear definition. And that's what she's gunning for. If I see it and I believe it's racist, then it is. And furthermore, where's all this racism happening? Where are all these white people burning down businesses? Where are these white people looting? Where are all these white people in inner cities gunning down and killing other white people or black people? Where are all these white people destroying black-owned businesses or burning crosses in black people's front yards? Where are they at? Show them to me, please. Because if you don't know any better and you listen to these bigots, then you believe, if you don't do your own homework, that America is full of racists. They want you to believe that our cops are racist. Hell, just questioning their ideology, they call you a racist. And sadly, there is racism in America. And this is an insult to those that are actually victims of racism. We're going to go a little longer than expected tonight, so I hope that you'll stay along and listen to these last few stories. San Francisco Reparations Committee has proposed paying each black longtime resident $5 million and granting total debit forgiveness due to the decades of systemic repression faced by the local Black community. Now, again, show that to me. Show me white people suppressing Black people like they want you to believe. I will go to them myself with the camera rolling and call them the fuck out. Show it to me. It's not there. But they want you to believe it. What happened many years ago in America is horrible and disgusting, and it never should have happened. And we came to our senses and we basically told the Democrat Party to go fuck off because you're a bunch of racist bigots. That's what Republicans did. But yet, who do most of the Black people vote for? Democrats. They're the ones responsible for the KKK and for Planned Parenthood, which was designed to eliminate the Black race and Black babies. They're the ones that wanted segregation in our schools. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee, which advises the city on developing a plan for reparations for Black residents, released its draft report last month to address reparations, not for slavery, since California was not technically a slave state, but to address the public policing expressly created to subjugate Black people in San Francisco by upholding and expanding the intent and legacy of chattel slavery. While neither San Francisco nor California formally adopted the institution of chattel slavery. The tenets of segregation, white supremacy, repression, and exclusion of Black people were codified through legal and extra-legal actions, social codes, and justice enforcement, the draft states. The draft plan includes a long list of financial recommendations for San Francisco's residents that are Black, including a one-time lump sum payment of $5 million to each eligible individual. A lump sum payment would compensate the affected population for the distance of harm that they have experienced, and will redress the economy and opportunity losses that Black San Franciscans have endured collectively as a result of both international decisions and unintended harms by city policies, the draft states. To be eligible for the program, the applicant must be 18 years of age, and have identified as Black or African American on public documents for the last 10 years. Now, I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I had my DNA done to determine my ancestry, and I got 1% Black in me. If I move back to San Francisco, can I get that $5 million? Just a thought. Hell, I'm going to identify as Black. Can I do that? Why not? There are other people that have and got away with it. There was a white woman that was the head of the NAACP for years before they caught her and realized she didn't have any Black in her. But that's how she identified. They must also prove at least 2 of 8 additional criteria, choosing from a list that includes born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996. Oh, well, there it goes. I'm thrown out of that. I can't do it. I can't get my $5 million. And has proof of residency in San Francisco for at least 13 years. Oh, I wasn't there for 13 years. I'm not going to get my $5 million. And or personally, or the direct descendants of someone, incarcerated by the failed war on drugs. The plan also calls on the city to supplement lower income residents' income to reflect the area median income, about $97,000 annually for at least 250 years. Racial disparities across all metrics have led to a significant racial wealth gap in the city of San Francisco, it argues. Let me explain something to you. I don't know how many of you have ever been to San Francisco, but I lived in the Bay Area there. I served in the California Air National Guard and Army National Guard when I was out there. I served in law enforcement out there in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there's not that many black people there. It's more white people because black people can't afford to live there. And it's not because there's no jobs. It's because the illegal aliens have taken the fucking jobs. And San Francisco welcomes them. It's a sanctuary city. See, this works two ways, California. But the people in charge there are too stupid to realize just how dumb this is. And who you are not affecting. If you ever get a chance to go to San Francisco, it's a great place to visit. Pay attention to your surroundings. You'd think you were in Utah. By elevating income to match AMI, black people can better afford housing and achieve a better quality of life. Yeah, you're right. If you give all the black people $5 million plus $97,000 annually for their job, sure they can. The plan also seeks to establish a comprehensive debt forgiveness program. So we're not just going to give them $5 million. We're not just going to give them $97,000 a year for income, but we're going to forgive them of all their debt. Credit card debt, student loan debt, housing loans, etc. Black households are more likely to hold costlier, riskier debt and are more likely to have outstanding student loan debt, the draft explains. When this is combined with lower household incomes, it can create a cycle of debt. Eliminating this debt gives black households an opportunity to build wealth. No, they're not going to build wealth. You just gave them fucking wealth. They ain't got to work again. The committee submitted the draft proposal to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors this past December 23rd. The African American Reparations Advisory Committee has not yet received any feedback from the board regarding their position on the recommendations or when the board will schedule a hearing to formally discuss this plan. The committee told Fox News Digital. Board of Supervisors President Aaron Paskin told the San Francisco Chronicle he hopes the plan is approved. There are so many efforts that result in incredible reports that just end up gathering dust on a shelf, he said. We cannot let this be one of them. Meanwhile, House Democrats are pushing to establish a reparations committee at the federal level by who? You guessed it, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat, Texas. And 52 other House Democrats proposed legislation just last week seeking reparations and a national apology for slavery. I think Bill Clinton was the first president on record to apologize officially for what happened before any of us were born on planet Earth. Look it up. The Washington, D.C. Council is expected to override Mayor Muriel Bowser's veto of sweeping criminal reform legislation that will soften penalties for many violent crimes, including carjackings and burglaries. Bowser vetoed the revised Criminal Code Act earlier this month, thank God, after the council, which lacks a single Republican member, voted unanimously to adopt it back in November of last year. The overhaul of the city's criminal code includes reducing maximum sentences, the elimination of nearly all mandatory minimum sentences, and expands rights to jury trials by those accused of misdemeanors. Criminal justice reform advocates say the bill is necessary to modernize the law, which was written in 1901, and ensure that punishments are appropriate for the crimes being committed. But opponents have sounded the alarm on provisions that would allow DC inmates to ask for an early release 20 years into their sentence, even those accused of violent crimes like murder and sexual assault. Couldn't make this shit up if you tried. This is the Democrat Party for you. Bowser voiced concerns about the reduced penalty provisions of the bill when she vetoed it back on January 3rd, just recently. Anytime there's a policy that reduces penalties, I think it sends the wrong message, she said. That is correct, madam. Council members are expected to override Bowser's veto and send the bill to Congress, where federal lawmakers will have 60 days to review it. Within that period, Congress may enact a joint resolution approving the council's act. If President Biden approves the resolution, the act will be prevented from becoming law. If he doesn't, I'm sorry. New DC Attorney General Brian Schwab voiced support for the overhaul, tweeting, "This bill will improve public safety and provide long overdue clarity and fairness in our justice system. The revised Criminal Code Act should be the law of this district." Today, at CM Charles Allen and I are moving to override the mayor's veto by reversing the Criminal Code Act, tweeted Councilmember Brooke Pinto. The veto threatens to unravel years of work and throw a study that has accumulated in criminal code that is more just equitably and clear making us all safer. I will vote to override the mayor's veto and revised Criminal Code Act, tweeting Councilmember Matt Furman. The RCCA modernizes the criminal code, making it more transparent for all involved and will promote public safety. So, how do we get these Democrats to realize their ideology is batshit crazy? Well, sadly, until one of their family members is affected by the crime that's happening in DC, or anywhere for that matter, because this ain't just happening in DC, it's happening all across America. Until one of their family members is raped or murdered, they're never going to change. That's what it's going to take to get them to wake the fuck up and realize that they're batshit crazy. Sadly. Lawmakers, fishermen, and marine activists are calling for an investigation into whether offshore wind projects are killing marine life after a recent spat of dead whales washing up along the New Jersey and New York coastline. Seafreeze Fisheries liaison Megan Lapp told Fox News that the Biden administration's initiative to build wind farms to combat climate change could be what's threatening the lives of these whales, as an increased number have turned up dead in various states across the country. I can't authoritatively say that all of the whales that are washing up are because of the offshore wind farms. But what I can tell you is that the 7 whales that washed up in New Jersey in the past month have all washed up during intense geochanneling surveying of wind farms leases off of New Jersey, Lapp said Friday. On the East Coast, there have been unusual events for humpback whales from 2016 until now, she continued. The only thing that has changed in the ocean in that time is the fact there have been offshore wind surveys occurring from 2015 until now. Now, magically, there are a bunch of humpback whales dying. Representative Jeff Van Drew, Republican New Jersey, earlier called for an investigation to determine whether the survey work for building offshore wind turbines is causing harm to marine life, demanding this ceasing it of all offshore wind activity until an investigation is conducted. Where's all those save the whale people, save the spotted owl people? Where are y'all at on this? Why aren't you out there protesting this? Lapp echoed that lawmakers called for an investigation, telling Carson, and they were on Tucker Carlson, that the intense sound caused by such projects could be to blame for the recent spike in the whale deaths. The only thing that changed in the ocean is the surveying activities that have been going on offshore in these wind farms, which are essentially carpet bombing the ocean floor with intense sounds, she said. They need to take a very hard look at this. We know that intense sounds can cause bleeding in the eardrums of whales and lesions in their ears. Now, all of a sudden, you have offshore wind farm surveys, and you see them stranding whales on the beach, Lapp added. Lapp warned that the impact of wind turbines in a recent episode of the Tucker Carlson original titled Blown Away, The People versus Wind Power, where the Fox News host and its production crew examined how turbines have the capability to disseminate and kill wildlife. The project has been a key piece of the Biden administration's climate agenda as they continue to push for clean energy development. In July, Biden argued that offshore wind would create jobs and empower millions of homes in the future. And the Department of Interior has expanded plans for offshore leases and sales of wind developing along the nation's eastern and western coast in the Gulf of Mexico. But Lapp said the environmental impact of the project should be thought out, examined in the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration before the project can move forward. Nobody is reporting on this, sadly, other than Tucker Carlson. Nobody is looking at this with a critical eye, and there really needs to be a suspension of these surveys until this can be properly investigated. In closing tonight, I ask you this. If you could live forever, would you? If there was some kind of magic pill or an injection that you could be given that would extend your life indefinitely, would you take it? Though many people have searched for the fountain of youth for years, scientists at Harvard University believe they have discovered the secret to reversing our aging process in humans. That's right. Harvard University is playing God. A recent study published in the journal Cell found that by making DNA repairs on mice, scientists were able to drive age forward and or backward through manipulating the aging process with their DNA. There's new research now showing that the aging process can be reversible. Johns Hopkins health policy expert Dr. Marty McRae said on Varney and Company today. That is, that the body may carry a copy of a gene in your body that codes for a younger response to everything physiologically, according to Harvard Medical School. Study has been going on for 13 years, making and demonstrating that the recognition and regulation of genetic structures can either accelerate or reverse effects of aging, like deteriorating eyesight, smaller attention span, and skin tissue falters. We believe ours is the first study to show that change as a primary driver of aging in mammals. The paper's senior editor, David Sinclair, professor of genetics at the Bavarian Institute at Harvard Medical School and co-director of the Paul F. Gene Center, for biology of aging research, told Harvard in a news press release. Research also acknowledged that the results must next be tested in larger mammals or humans. We expect the findings will transform the way we view the process of aging and the way we approach the treatment of disease associated with aging. Co-first author J. Hong Yang, research fellow in genetics at the Sinclair Lab, also told Harvard, aside from his recent Harvard experiment on mice, the research on reversing age is pretty mature. Mr. Markray argued, noting that a fair amount of literature details what you can do in slowing the aging process. Now, I'm all for finding a cure to get rid of cancer, finding a cure to get rid of AIDS, finding a cure to get rid of COVID, finding a cure to get rid of all the diseases that we face. And let us just live out our life until the aging process takes us. But to play God with DNA, well, we've already seen what Dr. Fauci did. Time will come out to show that he's an evil bastard. And thankfully that the House is now controlled by Republicans. We're going to get to watch that unfold right here on our television sets on C-SPAN. But now they're interfering with human DNA with the aging process. So I go back to my original question. If they were able to produce this, and you could take a pill or shot to reverse your aging process and live indefinite, is that something you would want to do? I'd love to have your comments about that in the comment section of this show. Folks, you have many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. I'm so sorry about the way the show started with the technical difficulties we had. We worked through that, we got through that, and we moved on. And we had to go a little longer than expected. I think this is the first time I've ever done a show that was, an hour and a half. But we had a lot of stuff we had to cover tonight that I wanted to cover, that I wanted you all guys and girls to hear. It's very important that you be up to speed and up to the knowledge that's out there and that can be put out there with truth and not absolute babbling bullshit from the left. And that's all I strive to do. If you haven't already done so, please go to DouglasDucote.com and check out our website. Also, subscribe to this channel and ring the bell. You can also go to the other YouTube channel I have called Charlie Hotel 47. It's a really cool site where I put up personal stuff that I've experienced, whether it's in combat operations or museums I've visited, and will continue to do that and update that for the youth of our country, or the youth of the world for that matter. I hope that you will view it and share it with our future generations. It will show just how important our country is, and the good as well as the bad in society. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each of you. I'll see you back right here this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time for another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. Thank you all. Good night, and have a blessed and wonderful evening.